Hi, everyone, and welcome to this quick catch-up session with our CEO, Pedro Colasso. I'm really excited to have you on today, Pedro, because I hear that you're going to be announcing some really exciting news and some new game-changing developments to our product. So it's great to have you, Pedro. And for anyone who's watching and might not know, do you mind just giving a brief introduction on who you are and what you've been up to in our industry over the past years?
Sure. Thank you for having me, Melissa. We've been I'm Pedro Colasso. I'm the founder, one of the co-founders, and the CEO of Guest-Centric. We've been in the business for about 15 years. We've been helping hotels get guests directly. That's why the name Guest-Centric. And we launched hypercommerce about a couple of years ago, which is our vision for the next 10 years or so. And we have some exciting developments around hypercommerce.
And what exactly is this exciting news that you will be announcing today?
So today, what we're sharing is we have introduced a new feature, which is called ResLock. And ResLock is really about giving people options not to be anxious when they book hotels.
And what sort of trends in our industry led to the development of this feature of ResLock?
Sure. So maybe let's take a step back, right? Our vision really is that for hotels to be successful in the future and for the next 10 years or so, we created this new vision that we call hypercommerce. And hypercommerce has four vectors or four pillars that it's built on. One is this notion that we need to have tools that help hotels compete better online, convert more, and boost their performance. The second pillar is this notion that in the future, consumers are going to be elsewhere, not just in the channels we know. They're going to be on Instagram, they're going to be on TikTok, they're going to be on things that we don't even know about yet. And therefore, hotels need to be able to spread their brands and reach these guests earlier in the funnel and not at the time when they're already on the OTAs like Booking and Expedia. The third pillar is that, the new generation of consumers really is much more demanding in terms of what they want to see and what they don't want to see. So this whole issue of hyper-personalization and the ability for hotels to easily personalize interactions with consumers is very important. And last but not least, I think with the advent of ChatGPT, the expectations on simple technology have really gone through the roof. So people want solutions that simplify their operations and therefore also things that maximize their bottom line. And those are sort of the four pillars around where we've built hypercommerce. What we're talking about here today is in the boost, performance, convert more pillar. And in those three in that pillar, we have like three big elements. One is this notion that website and booking engine are all the same, and because the guests don't know if they're on the booking engine or the website. The second element is boosters to maximize conversion. That's where ResLock comes in. And then last but not least, we have a bunch of things that help, create deals that create urgency to book and so on and so forth. But today, really, ResLock is about these boosters in this hypercommerce and in these trends.
Great. And was there any specific trend? Because I know we've spoken about sort of this need that guests have for more flexibility in making their choices. So could you tell us a little bit about how that trend sort of influenced the development of hypercommerce?
Absolutely, and if you think about it, I think that sort of the background to this is that every time somebody's booking a hotel, that typically there's anxiety involved, right? Because it's a large ticket, so it's a large amount of money typically, especially if you're booking, say, high demand properties or busy dates. You go ask your question, is this the right hotel? Is this the right price? Should I book now? Should I wait for the price to go up or down or whatever happens there? And therefore, really what consumers have been trained to do is to go to booking.com and book a free cancellation reservation, right? And some consumers actually end up booking 1, 2, 3, 4 hotels for the dates that they're interested in. And then they decide, okay, I'll cancel them later because it's very easy to cancel. And actually, you see that in Booking.com's marketing. So in effect, this anxiety that consumers experience really is driving really a bad behavior for hotels, because probably this reservation is going to be canceled, and we know that 30 to 50% of all Booking.com reservations get canceled. So if you think that some of them don't get canceled because of this anxiety issue, but they get canceled because people really are unable to travel or whatever, that means that probably 50 to 60% of these, what I'm calling them anxiety bookings, will be canceled. So in effect, the hotel feels good that they're getting the booking, but many of them are going to be canceled. So in effect, there's no value there. The second thing is, because there's this behavior, there's this effect that people actually end up going to Booking.com many ways, when there's anxiety or when there's no anxiety, and therefore hotels end up paying 18 to 30% more for that booking than they would if they got the booking direct, because obviously they have to pay the commission. Then there's commission overrides, there's Genius, there's mobile, there's all these other things that the OTAs do to sort of try to drive the price down of the booking. And then last but not least, because it's an intermediated reservation, there's really no direct access to customer data. You may be able to communicate with them, but it's through the OTA's messaging platform and so on and so forth. So it becomes difficult to reach the consumer. So that's sort of the problem that we're trying to solve here. On the other hand, so that's sort of just a generic problem. If you want to put some data around this, is that the cancellation impacts have different, or cancellations of reservations have different impacts on direct versus intermediated or OTA reservations. What we're looking at here on the left side of the slide is these are bookings for check-ins in January and how the pricing has evolved over the months. And what we see is that there's really some big ADR drops as we get closer to check-in dates, and hotels, unfortunately, are not as disciplined about revenue management as airlines. Therefore, if they see that they still have inventory to sell, they end up dropping the price as they get closer to the check-in dates. Interestingly enough, with direct reservations, typically canceled reservations are replaced with similar price or ADR reservations. On OTAs, actually, it's quite different. So hotels are more disciplined about the pricing that they put to OTAs. So the trend is not as severe in terms of dropping price as you get closer to the check-in dates. But what we see is that there's a big gap. And for instance, you can see here in June between the canceled reservations and the confirmed reservations. So what's happening is actually that people are booking those anxiety bookings. Those are high ADR, and then they get canceled and they get replaced with lower ADR reservations. And that's really a problem. So in effect, what we're seeing is that free cancellation is creating really an economic problem for consumers also, for hotels also. Sorry.
No worries. And okay, well, the next question I have on this, it's possibly a bit two-folded, but I'll start with part one and then we can go to the next phase. But how does ResLock, how does it come into play in helping to solve this challenge for the hotels, and kind of continue to level that playing field for them? And then the second part of the question would be, what makes this feature unique in our industry? So we can start with part one.
Okay, so if you look at this sort of background that we have, on one hand, these what I'm calling anxiety bookings that create all sorts of problems for hotels. What we looked at, what has happened in other industries, and in effect, what has happened is that free cancellation has been eliminated in most industries, right? For instance, on physical products, you really don't get that, right? Even whole lists on retail last 24 hours max. But most importantly, on perishable inventory, you typically don't have free cancellations, or you make them very expensive. So thinking about this, we thought, okay, if that's the case, then how could we drive this into the hotel industry, right? And what we're seeing is that this anxiety problem is actually increasing. And you can see here, these are the number of cancellations, percentage of Booking.com cancellations in stay dates. And just this year, in January, we had 34% cancellations. In May, we already had 45% cancellations. And why is that? Because we're seeing that prices are rising. That drives more anxiety. And that anxiety also drives the website abandonment. So we're worried that this, this problem is increasing. So we put our sort of our thinking hat on, and we went back to sort of a direct first strategy that we devised, prior to the pandemic. Prior to the pandemic, what we saw was hotels were slowly but surely trending away from offering pre-cancellation bookings on OTAs. So the idea is you only offer non-refundable rates on OTAs, which still gives you visibility because the non-refundable rate is the lowest rate that you offer. So you still have the visibility, but in effect, Booking.com or the OTAs are no longer an anxiety fix because you can't go there and just, pre-book or a reservation. So the anxiety reservations cannot be done there. What that means is that you end up then driving people to your website because they either book a non-refundable rate and be nervous about it, or go to your website and book a refundable rate. And in this case, what we're suggesting is if the price differential between refundable and non-refundable is significant, say it's 30% or more, which is what airlines do, then people are still going to be incentivized to do a non-refundable rate. And what ResLock does is, okay, you can lock in the low rate for a specific period of time. It could be 24, it could be 48, it could be 72 hours, it could be a few weeks. It's really in the hands of the hotels. But here, the idea is that for a small fee, the consumers can actually lock in a rate, take some time to make the decision, and then if they don't want to move ahead, that's fine. They lose what I'm calling here a glass of wine. And if they want to go ahead, then they actually have that lower rate guaranteed.
And just to make sure that I can understand 100% clearly, that refundable rate would stay on the direct channel, but with ResLock, so that people can book it in advance with their preferred rate. And then if they cancel it, like let's say before the check-in, the hotel still retains that fee, giving them like an ancillary revenue stream as well?
That's correct. So what ResLock is about, the ability to lock a reservation price before committing to a full reservation. So what this means is I will lock in that rate, right, for this nominal fee, and if I book that rate, then I get to book that rate. But if I don't want to continue with my reservation, the hotel still keeps that nominal fee. So it's really it's both a booking booster, as I said in the beginning, but it's also potentially a new revenue stream for hotels, especially in high demand periods.
And then I guess it also gives that peace of mind because it still is refundable, but then moving it like the non-refundables to the OTAs, it kind of makes sense for the direct first strategy for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. And what sort of, I know it's very early days, it's recently gone live, the feature, but what sort of results do you anticipate hoteliers can receive from using ResLock?
So the way this works, just to be clear, sort of to give you is that basically what happens is when you're on the booking engine, you're going to see a new button, right, to lock this price, and then people can lock the price. And what this does is say the non-refundable rate was $150 a night. The refundable rate was $195. On average, reservations in this hotel is about 2.5 nights. So that means that the refundable reservation will be about $500. The non-refundable reservation will be around $375, and people will need to pay $11.25 to pay to get the ResLock done. So clearly, the consumer gets a great advantage, right? Because they're going to save $100. They're going to keep their reservation, be able to lock that reservation, and save about $100 in the process. And actually, the hotel gets this extra cash flow. It's only $11. That's not a lot, but really the big difference is that you by locking in that reservation, you avoid the last minute discounts on the OTA channels, which could be very, very significant. So the economic value for the consumer is clear. They get a much better price with, some guarantee. And then for the hotel, obviously, the big advantage here is that they get a small nominal fee, but really the big advantage is avoiding those last minute discounts of canceled reservations exchange for lower rate confirmed reservations. I'm not sure I answered your question, by the way.
Well, yeah, I think it does, in the sense that it explains well, like what hoteliers can expect in terms of using the feature, and then also what the guests will see in using it. In what ways does this feature stand out in our industry? Because I know the airlines kind of do something similar, but why is this a game changer in your view?
I think it's really sort of a game changer, because it really wants to exemplifies well what hypercommerce is, right? When we launched the hypercommerce vision was, we need to have a different strategy to motivate consumers to book directly. We need really to drive a lot of value for the hoteliers, but also for the consumers. And if you look at it just from a generic perspective, we're having very, very high prices in hotels. We're getting increasingly cancellations from the OTAs, and consumers being anxious means that people are abandoning at the booking stage. The reason why this stands out is that it's really a unique solution, in the sense that for the first time in hotels, I can lock in a rate for a limited amount of time, and therefore I can do that. That takes care of my anxiety problem that I typically fix with Booking.com. I can fix that now direct, and that should increase my conversions. I get more flexibility as a guest. I get that peace of mind that you were referring to, and then obviously this is very easy to use. If you think about all the pillars that simplify operations, it's really super simple to use. You can decide what sort of lock-in fees you want. We have obviously recommendations on how to do this. So it's really a good solution in that sense. And at the end of the day, it matches the reason why we think this is a game changer is that we believe that to get more direct bookings and reduced abandonment rates, you need to have a set of features, functionality, strategies that really drive that. And that's what we call hypercommerce. And that's why hypercommerce has 4 pillars. And under the pillars, there's multiple strategies and multiple things. And we believe that ResLock is sort of a good example of how hypercommerce can really sort of change the relationship that hotels have with guests directly, and helps them be more guest-centric.
Great. I'm excited to see how it goes and how hotels will use this. And I have to say, putting myself in the consumer perspective, as a early booker of anything, definitely something that would be useful, and certainly meet that need for the flexibility. So yeah, I'm excited to see how it goes, and yeah, thanks very much for coming on today and sharing your thoughts on this and your perspectives. And thanks everyone for watching. And if you'd like to find out more about ResLock, please click the link in this video description and get in touch with our team, who can let you know more about what ResLock is about and how it can help your hotel. And we'll see you on the next one. Thank you, Pedro.
Thank you, Melissa.